One of the most offensive things that anybody has ever called me was a liar. I remember once when I was in 7th grade, the whole class was in an uproar. It was a mess. The teacher didn't have a grip on anything at all. And I don't know what she heard or what happened, but she stood up and she shouted at me that I was a liar. And I was so deeply offended. Like, I remember like the anger that I felt, it went like all the way through me. And I took it to my parents and I took it to the principal. And to this day, being called a liar is one of the things that really, really hurts me. And so I take what I say really, really seriously. Hi, everybody. I'm Davida. Thank you so much for joining me on my journey towards greater clarity and connection. I might take this kind of to an extreme. It's really important to me that my kids know that if I tell them something, that they can rely on it. So even when they're really little, let's say they're kind of like whining and crying and maybe pre-verbal, and I tell them, I'm in the middle of, chopping these carrots. I will pick you up in 2 minutes. And then I have my eye on the clock and I'm really sure that after 2 minutes, I go and I pick them up and I give them a hug and maybe I put them right back down again. But I want them to know that when I say I'm going to do something, that they can count on it. And it's happened that my daughter, when she was like 5, I think she kind of called me on something. I had said we would, stop by the supermarket after school or something, and we didn't. And she said, Ima, you said, and I said, you know what, you're right, I said that and I forgot. Or I said that, but here something else came up, and then I'm explaining why that changed. So it's not like, come hell or high water, whatever I said it has to be. But I'm really trying to build a sense that I'm reliable. And I kind of even have mixed feelings about things like, I'll be there in a second, where it's a figure of speech. So nobody expects somebody to be there in a second. It just means that, I haven't forgotten about you and I'm going to come as soon as I can. You know what I mean? But there's something about that phrase that bothers me a little bit. Like it's almost kind of undermining the value of the other person's time. Like they might be waiting for, a minute and a half or 5 minutes, and calling it a second isn't really honoring the time that they're waiting for you. But then on the other hand, I kind of don't think it's such a big deal. So that's sort of like a fuzzy area that I don't have like a clear opinion on. And I say, I'll be there in a second. But there's another place where this holds true, plays a big role for me, especially with my kids. Where it's like if I see them doing something that I think is dangerous, like, they're climbing on a high wall or, on a balance beam in the playground that's not meant to be a balance beam, that's, some kind of support thing. And I'll say, I'm sure not to say, come down from there, you're going to fall off. Because a lot of times I hear people saying that, parents saying that, and the kid doesn't fall off. And then the parents' judgment suddenly is questionable. Like, you said I was going to fall off and I didn't fall off. So what I say is, that's really high up, or that doesn't look safe to me. I feel scared that you're going to fall off. Can you come down? And then like my fear is totally there. So that's, reliable and true. And I'm not making a prediction that is going to turn out to be false. If you eat that, you're going to get a stomach ache. So maybe, but maybe not. So, I don't want you to have so much of that because I think you might get a stomach ache. And then, okay, that's for sure true. You could always get a stomach ache. And I don't know if this, I'd love to hear if you think that that's kind of like over the top. But I like the idea that when I tell my kid that something is dangerous, that they know that they can trust my judgment and that I'm I'm weighing things in a reasonable way. Like there are things that my kids do, like whizzing down a a hill on their little, it's not even a tricycle, it's just this plastic thing on wheels, and it's really fast and it's really scary, and I don't really want to stop them. I think that the risk taking is okay. I don't really think they're going to fall over, but I can't bear to watch, and then I kind of just don't watch because I think that risk taking is good and they're gleeful, and I've seen enough kids do it without falling down that I know that the chances of them falling are pretty slim. If they fall, it'll really hurt and it'll be okay. They're probably not going to die. Yeah, I'm really curious to hear what you think about that. Especially, I'd really like to know if you have memories of being told that something was dangerous or you should stop or not good for you, and that not being true. Because I've also heard from people, particularly around like religious matters, like, do this and it'll be, that'll be good for, your relationship or for your relationship with God or whatever that they grew up with, and they felt terribly resentful that their experience did not bear out what they were taught as a child, and very, very damaging for the relationship with that authority or that system or just that source of what could be great wisdom, but the integrity was really called into question by making statements like that about what will the consequences be, and it being definitive when things are often not quite so definitive, and what will happen is kind of anybody's guess, and there's statistics and chances and stuff, but to try to stay aware that the possibilities are wider than my fears. So thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you again next week.